Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Well, we're now hearing that Danny Garcia is planning on fighting Erik Morales again. Right now, I thought the first fight was very competitive early on. In fact, people know that before that fight, I thought Erik Morales was a live underdog, right? But Morales, apparently, if you believe his camp, and this might be spin, right? We're going to have to dig deeper at a later date. This is just a preliminary video. But if you believe his camp, Morales had just had gallbladder surgery. And it's because of the surgery that Erik Morales faded in the fight. Right? Keep in mind, as it was, surgery or no surgery, we know that Morales was not in tip-top condition. Not just by looking at him, and he looked flabby, but also by remembering that Morales blew the weight at the weigh-in. You remember, he actually weighed 2 pounds overweight, right? This is Adrian Broner before Adrian Broner, right? He lost his title on the scales, so only Danny Garcia was able to fight for the title in the actual fight. Now, I think that Erik Morales has a few things going for him that Amir Khan, who I still say should have beaten Danny Garcia, does not. Let me just say this. I believe the reason why Khan wants a rematch with Garcia, and the reason why Erik Morales is willing to have a rematch with Garcia, is because Danny Garcia, quite frankly, is not that complicated a fighter. I know it's unpopular. I know Danny Garcia is unbeaten. I know I'm going to hear that I have sour grapes over Danny Garcia, beating Amir Khan. But the bottom line is Danny Garcia is a hooker, right? He has a sometimes functional jab, but his real game is to literally beat you up with hooks. I don't believe he can fight inside, right? I don't believe he moves that well. I believe he moves in straight lines, right? Ashley Theophane went the distance with him. Kendall Holt went the distance with him, right? Danny Garcia has had some close fights, right? Now, Erik Morales, in my opinion, is a more complex fighter, right? Erik Morales isn't an ambush fighter. He's not Amir Khan trying to hit you and then back out, then change the angle, jump back in, throw a combination and back out, right? That's Amir Khan. I believe Erik Morales is more old school, more Roberto Duran. He's in front of you, right? He does things like he hits you with the right hand, then he comes back with the left to the body, right? He's rolling with your punches, right? He's shooting a jab so you can't hit the left side of his face, right? He's throwing punches straight, right down the middle. He sees Danny Garcia starting to throw a hook. He literally can hit him with a straight punch before the hook gets there. He's ducking under hooks. The hooks are sailing over the top of his head. He can actually get in close and work your body, right? He figures out that you're a hooker rather than spend all fight backing away then coming straight, backing away then coming straight. He actually instead stands and parries the blows with his forearms. Here's the problem with Erik Morales. There's a lot of tread on the tire, right? Erik Morales at this stage may no longer be Erik Morales. He might be an older version of Erik Morales, and the problem is, unlike Bernard Hopkins, unlike guys who, have always maintained their weight, who, are older, but whose bodies are actually younger and better preserved because the guy has spent years watching what he's eaten, right? The guy has, spent years staying in shape, staying in the gym. Let's remember that this version of Erik Morales literally took years off from the sport, right? This version of Erik Morales, when he returned to the ring, kind of like George Foreman in an earlier generation, when he returned to the ring, he didn't even look like Erik Morales. He had a lot of extra weight. He had to fight to lose the weight, right? And so you see the skills that Erik Morales has, and he's still highly skilled. The question, though, is whether Erik Morales still has the stamina, right? The other problem, too, is, Erik Morales' hand speed has slowed down, right? Erik Morales has picked his spots. You remember the Pablo Cano fight, right? I don't see Erik Morales in any rush to fight a Jose Aluzagan, right? He doesn't want to fight young lions other than Danny Garcia, who's every OG's young lion, because he's a mid-range hooker and he looks vulnerable up the middle. Erik Morales is not going to get caught up in a hook fest like Amir Khan did in the third round, right? Erik Morales is too savvy for that. There's a reason why Erik Morales went the distance. My concern, though, is that boxing is a physical sport. And against a young lion like Danny Garcia, who's still throwing hard hooks late in fights. You remember he dropped Erik Morales late in the first fight. Morales got up, finished the fight, but he got dropped by Danny Garcia late in that fight, right? Unlike Danny Garcia, who's still throwing hooks late, the question really has to be, can Erik Morales still be Erik Morales late in a fight? I think that's an open question. What I do know, though, is if you look at the Ashley Theophane tape, you're going to see a guy shooting a jab on Danny Garcia and keeping him off balance in a very close fight for several rounds, right? Guess what? Erik Morales beat Manny Pacquiao with a jab, right? Erik Morales has an excellent jab. Morales is probably looking at that first film, probably knows that he wasn't in great shape, couldn't even make the weight. And he's seeing that he had success early in that fight. Watch the first 4 rounds of the Garcia-Morales fight. It's closer than advertised, right? So, just a quick video. My initial thoughts on this is that this fight's going to be competitive, right? Erik Morales, motivated, might actually be able to make weight this time. He claims he's going to hire a nutritionist, right? We saw what that did for Juan Manuel Marquez in his last fight against Manny Pacquiao. If Morales has time to properly prepare for this fight, if he's not having another gallbladder surgery, if he hires a nutritionist, and if his stamina magically improves in the later rounds, who knows what can happen, right? Because a guy who can stay in front of Danny Garcia, jab and turn him, has a shot against him. And the problem with Danny Garcia is everything's a hook. What happens if an OG is able to stay outside and is able to jab him outside and then get too close to Danny Garcia for Danny Garcia to do anything inside? Take a look at the Amir Khan tape. How many times does Danny Garcia get inside on Amir Khan? Right? We saw Lamont Peterson pin Khan on the ropes. Right here, you notice Danny Garcia is not even good at doing that. He's not a guy who's going to get inside and lean on you. He needs the space to throw hooks. If you know your opponent is going to throw hooks, and if you're a future Boxing Hall of Famer, which Erik Morales is, and if you have the skills to get inside on the guy, inside of the hooks, right? How do I put this? If you're going one-on-one with a three-point shooter and you figure out how to only get him in the paint, you can do some things. Let's watch this Erik Morales fight unfold here. Let's watch the pre-fight. Let's figure out if Erik Morales is serious about showing up for this fight in shape. Because if he shows up with stamina this time around, I think he has a chance at the upset. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to look for any stories of Erik Morales' status in camp. Is he at weight? Right? You want to follow up on this gallbladder surgery story. Is it real? You want to figure out who his nutritionist is. Is his nutritionist a known nutritionist like Victor Conte? Appropriately, the alarms are going off. Alex Reza, you know what? The alarms should still be going off, but that's another story. Is his nutritionist the kind of big-time nutritionist who many others in the sport swear by? Right? Because he's going to need the stamina. He's going to need more stamina than he had the first go-round. Right? And so these are the questions that need to be asked. But I have no doubt that skill-wise, Erik Morales is more than competitive with Danny Garcia. Those are my initial thoughts on the fight. Let me hear yours. Remember, in YouTube, the real action is really in the comments to the videos. So let's hear your thoughts on it, whether you think this is a mismatch. Garcia's walked through Amir Khan. Garcia beat Morales before. Garcia's a young lion. The future's unlimited. Or whether you see Garcia as a fighter who's unbeaten right now, but who really hasn't been tested, who can't fight inside, and who relies a bit too much on hooks, as I do. Right? When we talk about Garcia, let's forget about his father. And let's just talk about the fighter's skill level, because that's what matters in the ring. Let me hear from you. Thanks for watching.